Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about why there will not be a third party in the United States of America, and why there won't be a third party coming anytime soon for American politics. So this is my opinion, and I'm just going to kind of sell you on my vision for why there's not going to be a third party. All right, so first I want to talk about a show called Working Moms. And the reason why is Working Moms is a really fascinating show. It's on Netflix. I believe it's a Netflix original. It is supposed to be a comedy, maybe a dark comedy, but I don't laugh when I watch it. It really reads to me like a horror show, because the idea is that they're showing you how difficult a working mother's life is, but it's just hellaciously difficult in this show. It just shows it to be one of the most difficult tasks ever, right? And you can see in these families, there's I think there's three main characters, right? And it follows the story of three main characters who are working moms. And the one thing that, it's really kind of starting to shock me in American entertainment, how there are certain things that are going away. Like, I think one of the old ideas is that, these television shows, because they were fiction, they could give you a good ending to the story that is that you might not find in real world, right? And I think what Working Moms is pointing toward is that working mothers should be able to work and go home and split the work at home 50-50, and that when they're at the work, they're going to be treated with 100% respect, and it's going to be equal field between both genders. And this show doesn't even give you the fiction that doesn't even give you a fiction version that could work. It's saying this doesn't work. The moms are going to be doing 80-90% of the work at home. When they go to work, they're going to be facing a lot of prejudice, and I love the show. It's a 5 out of 5 star show. I recommend watching it. But every single season, I walk away from the show feeling desperately sad for working mothers, because of the picture that this show is showing for. Because this show is saying there's no happy ending. There's no happy ending. You're going to have 80-90% of the housework. You're going to have to work harder at work for less pay, right? And so it's a dark show. It's super, super dark, and I'm riveted by it. Every time a new season drops, I blast through it in like a weekend. You know what I mean? Like, that's my weekend. That's what I'm doing. I'm watching Working Mommies the whole season. I'm really captivated by this show. But in the last season, in season 4, there was an entire episode called "No One's Coming." No one's coming. No one's coming. Right? They just said it once. No one's coming. All right? And the idea in there was, it was said to the main character who owns her own business, and that she had this problem. She's like, "What am I going to do?" And another character says to her, "Well, you got to handle it. No one's coming. It's just you." Right? And I think for Democrats and for Republicans, we get on the blues and the reds, blues, Democrat, reds, Republican, we get into this mode where we get really frustrated with our candidates, right? Like, on the blues right now, you got one of the most uninspiring candidates that's ever run for president. Joe Biden just seems like an old rehash of the first 43 presidents. Doesn't look like anything, and it's particularly galling after after a year and a half run up of really exciting, diverse candidates, to come to this incredibly unexciting, undiverse candidate, and this is where we landed, and we're frustrated, right? So on the blues, you get tempted to say, hey, what if there was a third party? And on the Republican side, they get frustrated too, right? The Republicans have been winning left and right with, honestly, I'll tell you, the problem with Donald Trump is he delivered on his promises. He said that we would be winning so much we'd get sick of winning. Boy, are we sick of winning. Yeah, if this is what winning looks like, I think a lot of people are. And they have won. There's no question. They got 2 judges. They got a tax platform they wanted. They have... there's just a lot. There's a lot of things that Trump has delivered for them. Unemployment. Never mind. I keep forgetting we're in Corona days. So they have delivered. Donald Trump has delivered a lot for his base, right? And trying to deny that is not helpful because you're going to end up getting wrecked anyway. It's just he really did deliver a lot. So basically, he dismantled the EPA. He rolled back major progress that the Obama era had done on climate change. There's just huge cultural, political, economic leaps forward from the Republican perspective that he's delivered for them, right? But in this Working Moms, it said no one's coming, and so on the Republican side, even though Donald Trump has delivered all this, many Republicans see the almost virtually permanent damage that Donald Trump is doing to the role of the U.S. presidency. That's one thing. It takes a real political wonk to get this. It takes a real political wonk to even care about this. But each president is the president, but they hold the role. And the role is unique and independent, and Donald Trump has done massive damage to the role of U.S. president that I think will take 50, 100 years to fix if it's ever fixed. All right? Just like the idea, we used to think that the president was a person of character, and honesty was a cloak that every president wore. Donald Trump's like, I ain't wearing that cloak. I don't need to. Honesty is not something I need to be attached to. I can, say what I want when I want. It doesn't need to be attached to truth. Right? That's new. That is new. I nowhere in my days have I ever seen a president who was this open about not allowing honesty to apply to their character. It's crazy, right? So I've never seen anything like it, right? So I think there are Republicans who are like, oh, this Donald Trump thing, man, we need a new third party. So there are times where both the blues and the reds are like, we need a third party. We need somebody to emerge. It will not happen. It will not happen between 2020 and 2100. Absolutely not. Maybe after that, things will have changed. But in my opinion, the next 80 years, there's absolutely no way a third party will emerge. Why is that? Well, it's a good question. So here is why no third party will ever emerge. So one, just simple history. You had the possibility of a third party with the Tea Party. The Tea Party was, I think it was within the 2000s era, and it was Republicans who were incredibly very, very disrupted and upset with other Republicans and wanted a really super conservative, more conservative. I think this was between like 2004, 2008, when the Tea Party was really emerging. And what it was Republicans who were like, you're not being strict enough on the Constitution. We want the Constitution to be held up as a perfect, infallible, unchanging document that can never be changed. We want super low taxes, and we want super, super conservative, like way more conservative views than are currently in the Republican Party. And that was the Tea Party, right? And they came forward, and I tell you, I think maybe in about 2008, maybe 2012, right? There was a point where Glenn Beck was still big. Glenn Beck is he was like a poor man's Rush Limbaugh, and kind of like an AM political commentary guy. And there was a brief moment for about a month or two where people were like, is Glenn Beck going to run as third-party candidate as a third-party candidate under the Tea Party banner, right? And a third party would emerge. And I will say right now, if a third party ever delivers the presidency for any race, you have a third party officially. So it would just take one president. But that is never going to happen, at least for the next 80 years. And here's why, okay? So when that happened, Glenn Beck was fully capable of being president, but he wasn't willing, okay? He had made a lot of money in just flapping his jaws on AM radio, and he could say whatever he wanted, and he wasn't responsible for it, right? Well, that's not the case when you're a president. When you flap your jaws when you're the president, you're responsible for what happens, right? There's responsibility, there's duty that goes with that job. And the reality is Glenn Beck didn't want to interrupt his life, for this. We saw this on the blue side, too. Trevor Noah said to Oprah Winfrey, hey, why don't you run for president? And she's like, oh, you don't want me to run for president. My life is too good right now, and it would just disrupt it. I was like, what? Is that the real answer you're giving? And she literally was like, yeah, it would just destroy my life. And she's right. It would have destroyed her life because they would have torn her. They would have went and just found every crevice ever in her history and opened that crevice with a crowbar, right? It would have been bad. And not because of who she is, but they do this to everybody who runs. So nowadays, in order to find a good leader, you have to find somebody who's capable and willing, right? And those two things don't line up all the time. You have lots of people who are willing but aren't capable. You have lots of people who are capable but not willing. And so you have to find the right person who is capable and willing to run under a third-party banner. Even if you find, and that's just it, almost never do you find that. You find one or the other. Somebody who's capable but not willing, somebody who's willing but not capable. So even if you were lucky enough to find a leader who was capable and willing, right, they now need to spin up this third party, okay? It is virtually impossible to do. And the reason why is the Dems and the Republicans have been doing this for 200 years. And they have systems. They have systems in place. And they're like, we can bring 40, 50, without a doubt. Actually, you know what? You can win the presidency with about 150 million votes. There's about 150 million votes to go into winning the presidency. And either one of these parties, they can bring 20 to 40 million without breaking a sweat, right? In order to get above that, you really got to work, right? But, at this point, both blue and red have gotten systems in place where they've done this so many times over and over and over. They can bring 20 to 40 million votes overnight. Like, just bring it. Here you go. Done. Right? You wanted 20 to 40 million votes for one candidate. We're going to be able to put them there, right? Because people remember what the Republicans and the Democrats have done, right? They've delivered many, many promises, right? They have absolutely delivered promises for the people of America. And they don't forget that, and they come back and they want to say thank you through their votes, and they do. They very much do. So both the Democrats, both the blues and the reds, they are functioning as machines now, and they have gears in place. Just like hundreds of people across the United States of America who are cemented into their positions and are accepted as leaders for groups that bring tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, low millions of votes, right? So any third-party candidate, they've got to whip up. They have to do all that work that's already done for every single election. So basically, when the election starts, the blues and the Dems, the blues and the reds are starting with 20 to 40 million votes in the bank, right? Third-party candidates got to build that up from scratch, right? And that is incredibly, incredibly difficult. And the reality, and the other issue is they have to coalesce. This is a perfect example of this. They have to coalesce a new group of people from the blues and the reds who will agree on one thing. Do you know how hard that is? Do you know who shows up for third parties first? They are the dregs of the voter base, the absolute dregs of the voter base. One thing, I'm really fascinated by this. YouTube is so far ahead in distributed internet video that every now and then some group or company will say, "Hey, we're gonna compete with YouTube on streaming video," right? And the first thing that happens on these brand new sites when they open up and they're like, "Hey, bring your videos here, put them on," is they get every single person that YouTube has kicked out, right? They'll show up first for the new service, right? And so what happens is if you build a shiny new internet video platform, the stuff that's going to be voted is going to be posted first on your new platform is the stuff that got these people kicked off right quick on YouTube, right? Because these people need an outlet for their videos, because YouTube is like, oh, heck to the no, you're done, out, account deleted, and it's the same thing. When you go for these third-party candidate votes, the most disgruntled, bone-to-gnaw candidate voter-based people show up, right? And that's what you're starting with, right? You need to build and get, followers attached to what is going to be a really shabby crew in the beginning, right? And so finding somebody who's capable and willing, who knows they're going to start with the most disgruntled, really problematic voters from a very frustrated voter base, from the blues and the reds, it is virtually impossible. And so, in my opinion, no one's coming. If you have this idea of a third party, you can forget it, right? The other thing is, just look at the 30 parties that have been around there. Libertarians, no respect. They've been around forever. Nobody cares about them. They never rank more than 2, 3, 4% in any election. The Green Party, whoo, boy, is that done, right? That's if there was one lesson learned from 2020, is that people absolutely do not care about the environment enough to make that their number one vote point. It is like third, fourth, fifth, sixth item on their voting list, right? So just look at the existing third parties. They never go anywhere, and the reality is, the only reason I'm taking the time to say this today is we got to stay focused. As frustrating as the Democrats and the Republicans are, we got to figure out how to fix them, not trying to, and I think any time spent trying to create a third party is a massive waste of time. You're better off putting your efforts as an apex follower, as a political activist, into fixing the existing parties. Pick one, improve it. Well, that's my opinion. What do you think? Do you think we'll have a third party within the next 8 years? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.